Hello. This is another video in the series of videos that I'm doing to tell you about things that I've seen happening in different parts of the United States specifically. Over the last 2 to 3 years I've had these dreams. As a disclaimer again, I'm not saying this to cause panic or doom and gloom. I'm not preaching that. I'm just telling a dream as a dream, so don't hate me because I'm just sharing with you what I've seen. I've seen, of course, 2 large earthquakes occurring in Southern California, specifically the city of Los Angeles. I found out that there is a fault that runs directly under downtown Los Angeles. In fact, the site of the Whittier Narrows quake, that runs in that same fault line, which begins in Orange County and then runs towards the LA area, and I think a little bit beyond that. Anyhow, I had other dreams about earthquakes. I saw 6.9 2 days ago. A man told me right before it was going to happen, told my sister and and I remember thinking, well, how does he know? Is there an early detection system or something? Has that been developed and they didn't tell us? Or I don't know what happened, but somehow he knew, and it happened right after he told us, within maybe an hour or so after he told us. But we were prepared at least, and we were okay. But this 6.9 and the dream that I just shared with you about January of 2012, if you look at the video on that both dreams, as large as the quakes were and as strong as the shaking was, they were both precursors to something larger that was coming. It's like these events were going to trigger something else that was larger. So I saw other type of geophysical activity going on here in California, which is, this one is not as common or something that you would expect as much as an earthquake. Of course, we sit on ground that rocks and rolls every day. But what I saw next was pretty amazing to me, and it prompted me to do a lot of research, which I've since found out so much information. I saw quite some time ago, a few years ago, I saw, I think it might have been about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in San Diego, California, and my father came to me in the dream, who's been dead since 1997. He passed at that time. But in the dream, he came to me with this serious look on his face, and he told me, I need you to get your things, pack some things, and I need you to leave. I need you to leave now. And I said, Dad, first of all, hi, how are you? What are you doing here? And what do you mean, get my things and go? And he said, there's no time to explain, you just need to get your things together and go now. So he did his warning, thinking it was strange, but I started to pack and get some things together, but not knowing the urgency or what was wrong, I kind of took my time. And every time that I tried to stop and take a break, then he would say, no, you don't have time, you got to keep going, stay focused. So I would do that. And then at one point I wanted to go to the store and get some things, and he said, no, you don't have time, you don't understand. And I was like, well, what is it? Can you just tell me? No, I can't tell you right now, you just have to get it together and go. And so I remember taking things out to the car, steadily loading the car up, and then it was a Saturday, like a Saturday morning, maybe around noon or right before noon, and a couple of kids were outside riding their bikes, kids were playing, people were washing their cars, people were talking, and the weather was a little cool outside. It must have been like the early spring or late winter in California. The weather was a little cooler then in Southern California. And I remember thinking, what's going on with my dad? I wonder why he's not telling me anything. And I remember kind of taking my time again, and I just got into the car with 2 more boxes. I had one on the ground and one in my hand. And I was getting ready to put one in the car when all of a sudden the ground shook a little bit, and there was this huge blast, this loud noise, this big explosion. And we looked, and we could see, I was on a cul-de-sac, but behind the houses I could see this big blast, like a mountain or something had blown. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I said, that's why you told me to go. So I threw the box in the car, and then I picked the other one up, threw it in the car, closed the door. People were running and screaming to go into their houses. The kids were afraid. They left their bikes on the ground, and they ran to their houses. And I remember driving, and I remember thinking, that's why you told me to go. You didn't tell me at first, but now I know why you told me to go. And I remember trying to get out of there as fast as I could to get away from the destruction. And I wasn't sure if we were going to make it out, but I knew my dad was with me and that I was going to be okay. That dream bothered me for some time. Right before I woke up, I saw the name, like the name of a movie or something, in all caps. It said, "It overtook us." I remember thinking, wow, that was pretty interesting, pretty intense. And but I didn't think, I said, well, there's no volcanoes in Southern California. No, they're all up north. And I wasn't sure if there were any volcanoes on the border by Mexico and Southern California, so I hadn't done my research on that. I did do some right after the dream, and I found out about the coastal volcanic field, which is located by, I think it's Bakersfield, California, which is heading towards the central part of California. But that was about all that I found. So I ended up, I think I started coming across the Mammoth volcanoes, but I didn't really, Mammoth Lake area, that area there, but I didn't really do in-depth research there. I thought that was further away, so I said, well, that's not what the area that I'm looking for, so I just kind of didn't go into that. I did have a dream about maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that I was coming from a major church conference, and we were coming from the Los Angeles area, going somewhere else, to the Inland Empire area, which is more further into Southern California. And coming from there, we stopped and took a break, and we were resting because it had been a long drive. And I remember thinking, we need to get home, but because it's getting dark. But I was telling my husband to get your things and get out of there, and I didn't know why. I kept telling him, get your things together, you need to go. And he said, well, I'm getting it together, I'm coming, don't worry, I'm coming, I'll be along soon. And I hung up the phone, got on the freeway, I was getting on the freeway, and just then the phone rang. And there was a lady that called with such an urgency in her voice. I didn't know who she was, but she said, do not come back to this area. She said, to the Inland Empire area. Major destruction's coming here, and you may not make it out. So I hung up the phone, and my sister and my mom were like, what's going on? What's happening? Who was that? And I said, I don't know who she was, but she said, don't go to the Inland Empire area, to Fontana, Ontario, none of those areas, because trouble was coming. And I was like, oh, Lord. And I remember turning the car around, and I was going to call my husband, but there was no time because there was this huge blast that I could literally see lava bombs coming in front of the car, flying over the car. And in the window, in my rearview mirror, we could see like the smoke, like an ash cloud, coming towards the car quickly from the area where it was. It looked like it was behind the San Bernardino mountain range. If you know that area, the geography of that area, it looked like it was northeast of that, and it was coming quickly. And I was like, how in the world can a cloud travel that fast? And we were I was flooring it, my foot was down, I had the pedal to the metal, and I was driving. But it didn't seem like we were going fast enough, and I didn't know if we'd make it away in time. I woke up with my sister and my mom and my kids and I screaming on the name of the Lord, and woke up. So I've since, that prompted me to do more research, and I since found out that there are quite a few volcanoes in this Southern California area that I saw. There are some volcanoes in the Mexico area. There's one just a little south of the border, which is close to the site of the Easter earthquake that happened here in, was it 2010? And that was in the Mexicali area. There is a volcano called Cerro Prieto that's over that way. And that would be like a smaller scale eruption, like what I saw in the San Diego dream. There are others. There's another one, I can't think of the name. It's like a table volcano or something is the name. It's something along those lines. There's the coastal volcanic field, of course, as I said. There's the whole Pisgah crater. There's Amboy crater, which is a little bit east of Barstow, California. And then, of course, there's the Mammoth Lakes area, which I found it is a supervolcano. It's not as large as Yellowstone, but it is nonetheless a supervolcano, which could cause major disruption in California for some time if it were to erupt. What's interesting is that I caught the tail end of a TV program once that said I happened to have it on in the room, and I walked in coming from another part of the house, and I happened to hear the lady say clearly, and I've since found it and looked it up on YouTube. She said that if there were a large enough earthquake on the San Andreas Fault that it could trigger an eruption at the I think she said the Long Valley caldera, which is the site of the big, huge crater that's the Mammoth Lakes area. Again, I'm not saying any of this to scare you. I just want to say to be prepared. Just be prepared. You never know what can happen, when it's going to happen. I know the Bible has prophesied. I'm not prophesying, but the Bible has prophesied many things to happen as we get closer to the Lord's return. And this was definitely a large event that has been unprecedented in my lifetime anyway, living here in California. I am planning on relocating, and I believe that first dream in San Diego meant that it was time for me to go, and at the time I did get warning to leave here. About a year ago I've been planning to relocate, and things have kind of been snagged, but I am still planning to relocate for various reasons. But anyhow, take the dream for what it's worth. Just be prepared. That's all I say. Just be prepared. And I'll be back to share a little bit more with you. I've seen a couple asteroid strikes, and I saw a Pacific Northwest quake as well, and some terrorist attacks in downtown LA. So, till then, be blessed.